and then I will introduce our guest, Miss Olivia Antenore. Would you please take it from
Mhm.
here? Hello, good morning.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I recognize a few of your names. Hi, good morning, Catherine. She's actually one of my students. Taylor, I've worked with her before. Everyone else, if you don't know, I'm Mrs. Antenore. I am the world history teacher here at San Diego Virtual School. And Mr. Phillips asked me to join this morning to kind of go over the historical aspect of this assignment. If you don't know, you should know that you're going to do this activity. It's on the Declaration of Independence and the American Revolution. So I'm just here, first 10 minutes or so, just going to kind of go through a PowerPoint with give you guys a little bit of background information or refresher or review of the American Revolution, and hopefully it'll help you complete this activity for your English class. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen for the presentation. Oh, you want to let that person in? There you go. Okay, so just a quick review, and also I recorded this and it is on the activity itself. I think on the first slide of your template of activity, it says step 1, start here, or something like that. So it's the same presentation I'm going to do here, and it's just recorded. I'm just doing it live here with you guys, okay? All right, so the American Revolution and the Declaration of Independence. Let's go back a little bit and talk about the 13 colonies. Okay, 13 colonies were these colonies. Well, today they're states, right? But the first 13 states were originally colonies on the eastern seaboard that you see here in red. And this is before the United States was the United States, right? We were colonies and we belonged to Great Britain, the United Kingdom, Great Britain, England. Everything else, which is the United States today, was not a part of the colonies. You had other European countries that colonized the continent. You're going to have Spain here in Florida. Half of the country, for the most part, was New Spain or Mexico during that time. And then you have this territory right here that was kind of like uncharted. Or I'm sorry, you had the French here, like in Louisiana in this area. But these string of mountains here, known as Appalachian Mountains, is kind of like uncharted, meaning they weren't really claimed. You have the colonists on this side, and then you're going to have the French, because the French were up here in Canada, as well down here, who are on this side. And it's going to eventually lead to a dispute for this area. But we'll get to that in a second. Okay, so basically, you just need to know or remember that the colonies, were a part of England. So what did England have the colonies for, or what was the benefit for the mother country, as it was called? Okay, here's England. Okay, all together with Scotland and Ireland, it's called the United Kingdom or Great Britain. I know it can be confusing, all these different names for it, but the mother country is here, and they colonized the colonies. And basically, we had raw material here, such as tobacco, sugar, rum, cotton. It was called King Cotton at the time. And these were things that were native to the Americas, meaning stuff like this did not grow in Europe, Africa, Asia. Therefore, you have this idea of mercantilism where the colonies would fund the raw materials. For example, raw sugar, raw cotton, raw tobacco is harvested and then shipped over across the Atlantic to England. Now, England had the factory system. Okay, they were industrialized. So they took the raw materials, used their factories, and created the output or the product. Okay, for example, tobacco, they created the cigars. Cotton that we send over created fabric and clothes, and then England would sell it globally throughout Europe, Asia, Africa. Okay, so in another sense, the colonies was this: we were a big money maker for Great Britain. Okay, we were making them money. So do you think when the colonies said, hey, we don't want to be a part of Great Britain, we want to do our own thing, that Great Britain was going to say, okay, well, bye? No, they were not going to let this moneymaker go easily. Okay, and that's going to basically, it's going to lead to a war, the American Revolution. So back to that land dispute I talked about in the first slide, Appalachian Mountains. Okay, again, you're going to have the French on this side of Canada, where Canada is, and then you have obviously the colonies right here. This area right here was a big fur trading industry because there's beavers. And so there was a dispute between the colonists and the French. And then you have also the Native Americans. A lot of, we forget that the Native Americans, you have all these confederations and tribes of people who were here before anything was even colonized. Anyway, so there was a dispute. It was the Ohio River Valley dispute, and it's going to lead to a war. It's called the French and Indian War, or it's known as the 7 Years' War. And basically, it's going to be between France and Great Britain. Okay, why Great Britain? Well, because we're British colonies, right? They call us the American colonies, but we belong to Great Britain. So to fight against the French, Britain's going to send over soldiers, as well as you're going to have a lot of colonists who will fight in the British Army, and they're going to fight this war against the French and the Native Americans for the Ohio River Valley area. All right. As you know, or you should know, wars are expensive. If you think about today, how is any war or conflict the United States is in, in our military, how is it funded? Does anyone know? Either you can say something on your mic or send a message in chat. How is our military and funded, or any type of disputes globally? No one has any idea? It's going to be from taxes. Okay, if any of you work and taxes are taken out of your paycheck, your federal taxes. Yes, so it is funded by our government, but where does the government get the money from? They get the money from our taxes. Okay, so once you start working, any federal tax taken out of your paycheck goes to the federal government, and the federal government uses the money for things. And a big part of our taxes is for our military. So back in 1754, Great Britain funded, basically because they sent soldiers to fight the French over here, it racked up some debt. Okay, and so here you can see how much debt was racked up between the years of the 7 Year War. Okay, so how is Great Britain going to try to get that money back? Well, they're going to tax, and they're going to tax the colonists. This is where you hear of the tea tax, sugar tax, stamp act, things like that. And they're going to tax the colonists pretty heavy. Okay, so they're saying, hey, we fought this war for you because basically you started this conflict with the French over here, and we came and fought this war for you, so now you got to pay taxes in return. Well, the colonists weren't so happy about it. Okay, they felt that it was unfair, they felt it was excessive, and they felt it was a lot. And they also felt that they didn't have a voice or a say. Taxation without representation is going to be the slogan during this time, and that basically means exactly what it's saying. You're getting taxed without being represented. So in government, the body of government over in Great Britain is known as Parliament. Okay, here today, our body of government that makes the laws is Congress, right? In Great Britain, it's called Parliament. So during this time, the colonists did not have any rep over in England in Parliament to represent the colonists, to speak for the colonists. So they felt that they didn't have a voice in government. Therefore, they felt, well, it's kind of unfair that you're taxing us when we can't even have a say or even vote on things like this. We did have diplomats, and Ben Franklin will be one. When you get into the activity itself, I believe Ben Franklin will come up in some of the links and resources, but that's not the same as a representative in Parliament who can help have a voice for the American colonists. So fast forward, you have all these taxes come up, all these laws are being created, the Quartering Act, colonists had to house British soldiers, they didn't have a say. It's going to lead up to different events, and it's going to push everyone towards war. Okay, and then you have the picture here of the Boston Massacre. So eventually war will happen. Now, the Declaration of Independence was written by Thomas Jefferson, and in it, it's basically, the Declaration of Independence is basically a letter. And in this letter, he lists reasons why the colonists want to break off from England and want to create our own nation. And he goes on to list grievances or injustices that they felt that King George and the British government did against the colonists. So another way of looking at this is the Declaration of Independence is a breakup letter. All right. When you break up with someone, you kind of say, hey, I don't want to be with you anymore. Let me tell you why. And that's exactly what the Declaration of Independence was. Jefferson is saying, dear King George of Great Britain, we are cutting ties. You know, you go your way, we go our way. We're severing everything. We want to establish our own country, rule ourselves, create our own government. Basically, you know, goodbye. We're walking away. It's literally a letter. It literally gets mailed and sent over to England to King George. England, of course, being the colonies was a big moneymaker for them. They were like, no, 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 no. I don't know what you guys think you're doing, but this is not happening. And you're going to have war break out. So basically, that's what the American Revolution was. Now, for your activity, and I'll let Mr. Phillips take over here in a second, but for your activity, you're looking at the British perspective. Why didn't Great Britain want to let the colonies go, and what are their reasons? Okay, according to what Thomas Jefferson says in Declaration of Independence, Great Britain had a response. They're like, no, no, this is no, 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 no. So they're going to kind of have a response. So you, as a student, your assignment in this activity is you are playing the part of King George and how you felt, what your response was to this breakup letter, and your reasons why the colonists didn't have a just reason to just try to become independent. Okay, well, I hope, you know, that's it from my part. Are there any questions?
Feel free to use the chat or the Q&A. If you think of something that comes to your mind after she leaves, then I'll connect you guys later.
Yeah.
But if we could round of applause, we would. Thank you so much for starting this
Thank
off for
you.
us. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, good luck,
And
guys. I will
yeah,
head on out because I have my own lesson for world history here later. But if you have any questions for the historical part, always feel free to email or you can chat with me. Okay.
all
Have a
right.
great
Thank you
day.
so much.
Bye.
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 All righty. As we transition from the history more to the English side, this is your Unit 1 activity. You should finish the short activity first. It will help you analyze the Declaration of Independence a little bit before. And I know I've graded a few of yours already. And I wanted to start with some fun facts. So, one thing I like to incorporate is just kind of like fun facts. How many of you have seen the movie National Treasure? That's a great movie to watch if you're interested in the Declaration of Independence. Obviously, Nick Cage there steals the Declaration of Independence, and it's quite the entertaining film. Another fun fact is that Thomas Jefferson was 33 years old when he wrote the Declaration of Independence. That is, to me, that's older than I am. But if you consider how young that is and how accomplished that is for a document that's lasted so long, I say that's rather impressive. So when you get to the assignment, you'll see your first slide. We just reworked all of this. So if it looks a little different and you already turned it in, that is why. We just reworked the entire assignment and now it looks a lot, I would say, more readable, just a little bit better looking. So you have here all of your instructions, all of your resources. Your step one is to basically watch what you just watched. Step two is complete all the tasks. And then step three is to schedule an appointment with me to present your slides. Has anyone here already done that? If you have, you'll know it's very little pressure, very easy. And we'll go over the rubric and exactly what I'm looking for as well. But that's the first slide. You can just leave it, or once you finish, you can delete this slide. All right. Slide number 2 then looks like this, and this is where you get started. Feel free to make this look a little bit better if you want. We gave you just a very basic palette to work with. The red text is where I want to see your name, your teacher's name. You can be that could be your teacher of record, the class name, and the date. Feel free to jazz this slide up, as part of your grade is a little bit on the visuals of this presentation. All right, this first slide is King George's reactions to the grievances listed. All right, In red here, it says include some sort of a graphic, but as you can see, it says put some bullet points, some talking points for what you think King George would say to all of these new developments, all of this here. Why I like this is you get to write in the perspective, the first person perspective of King George. So this first slide is all about his gut reaction. Is he happy this is happening? Probably not. And I want to hear in his voice his feelings, his thoughts, as if he's reading it for the first time. So that's the first slide where you have some work to do there. The next slide is a little bit more of a detailed look at the grievances. Now, what we said is have another picture there in red, and then we gave you an example. So you can read that example. It basically lists the grievance. So you could even say, in response to grievance number 3, or whichever grievance it is, you give a little taste of what that is, and you explain your reaction, why that's not true, why that's unfair, the reason for that grievance, and all those things. Remember, from King George's perspective. Okay, so that's slide number 2. I guess 3 if you count the title slide. The next slide is King George's reasons for collecting taxes from the colonies. You can be the king here. Why would you need to collect taxes from the colonies? One obvious answer that I see a lot has to do with the British fighting for the American colonies and getting all that debt from the French and Indian War. So that is one thing. And you can be a little bit creative as well. Use the history as a base, but then also become King George himself, okay? This next slide is no longer King George, but it is you. Which side of the conflict do you, the student, choose? Okay, very rarely have I seen students choose the side of King George. I feel like it's an obvious thing to choose the side of the colonists, but we have some prompts here to help you answer. Once again, it's red text. So the red text means put your input in and erase the other stuff. You can make it look better, but at the very least, you need to have your answer in there, okay? You'll see the last slide, it's in red because you can delete this once you're done. I mean, the background is red. If you click on that link, it takes you to this document. Actually, it takes you to a document, and I didn't link it because it wouldn't look good on the presentation. It takes you to the rubric, and the rubric breaks down a couple things. Okay, the first thing it breaks down is grievances. How well did you analyze, explain, and evaluate the grievances written in the Declaration of Independence? So that is a huge section. Make sure you are not just mentioning them, but you want to analyze, explain, and even evaluate those. How does it impact the colonists? How does it impact the British? And each grievance, there's a list on the slide. Pick a couple of them. Don't do all the grievances. That would take way too long. The other thing I'm looking for is that you're introducing a claim and a counterclaim. That's what's cool about this assignment is you're introducing a claim from the Declaration of Independence, and then you're talking about a counterclaim from King George himself. So I'm looking for those counterclaims as I'm listening to you present and as I'm reading your slides. Do you just make a claim, or are you refuting those claims? Because in English, we want to write balanced essays and writing. So this is great practice at claim, counterclaim. And that's another thing that the rubric would explain. The third thing is your audio delivery. Basically, are you clear? Are you organized? Are you on point? It's pretty straightforward. Don't necessarily, be too nervous. It's just you and me. And as long as you are clear, right, you're staying on the slides and you're going, and I feel like it makes sense what you're saying, you're going to do great on this. Okay, don't get frustrated if you mess up a word, right? Quickly correct it quietly, keep going. Oftentimes, if you highlight a mistake, that is worse than actually making the mistake. So you kind of want to just keep it moving, be clear, and stay organized. Finally, The other two things that it grades on is the digital media, basically the pictures, the way you laid out your text and all that stuff. Does it make sense? Does it enhance my understanding, or does something I see confuse me? Just make sure that it makes sense. Everything looks like it should fit. And then finally, just make sure your grammar is good. The conventions of standard English, watch out for misspellings, grammar, punctuation, like that. That one is the least valuable of all of the things on the rubric, but that is also on there. So just do a little editing after you are there, and you can be good. All right. I know it's a lot. We've covered a lot. I want to take this time to go over any questions you may have, any examples. Maybe you're working on it right now and you want to see if it's any good. I think it would be a great example for everyone if we went over a couple things, or if we talked about possibilities. I kind of want to hear what you need to know, what you are working on, and where we want to go from there. Are there any questions on any part of this assignment? We could also talk a little bit about the short activity if you would like. I want to, while we're waiting for questions, I want to turn your attention to the polls. If you go to activities, you've never done that on Google Meet, you can go to the bottom right and you click on those shapes. It says activities. I have a couple polls. First poll question is, how far along are you on this activity? Your answer options are done, almost done, getting started, not close to starting. Go ahead and answer that one. The next one is, did you know you have to present your project to Mr. Phillips? That is the second one. The answer should be now yes. If you didn't know, then say no, right? I want to know that honestly. But you do need to make an appointment with me. The easiest way you can get a hold of me is Google Chat. You can text me if you'd like, but Google Chat, you can just search in my name, send me an email, and I usually get right back with you. And I'll find a time that is easiest for us to communicate. The last one I'm launching right now is, how helpful was today's meeting? I want to be making good use of everyone's time. So very helpful, somewhat helpful, not very helpful. Don't worry, I won't be offended or anything if it's not very helpful. I appreciate your guys' feedback so that next time we can get a very helpful meeting going, okay? If there's no questions, then I will stop recording and then maybe we can have some actual dialogue. That way you feel a little less intimidated asking your question like it's going to be recorded. Okay, so before we take those other questions privately, I just want to say good luck on this assignment. I hope that if you're watching this video afterwards, this was helpful for you. Reach out to me, nphillips@sdvirtualschools.com for more information and help. All right. Thank you guys for being here. If you do not have questions, feel free to jump off. But if you do have a question that you want to kind of privately talk about, I'm going to stop recording and we can talk about those. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.